Guts is an amazing character. He still remains one of my top 10 favorite characters in fiction. He is remarkably human and keeps things grounded and real in a fictional world with his internal monologues and the way he speaks. He has depth to his character, and his goals are complex and always changing. And unlike other seinen protagonists, he's deep and complex while still being a charming character. Guts, whilst in the Golden Age, which is my personal favorite side of him, is relatively happy. He cracks jokes. He just is generally entertaining to see on screen. And speaking of the different sides of Guts throughout the series evolves in such a believable and understandable way. He's young and hot-headed in the beginning, then throughout the series he becomes more mature and cool. And it's done perfectly. Guts is, without a doubt, an amazing character. I wish every character in Berserk had this level of depth and nuance. In my opinion, all the characters that join Guts' party and follow Guts around are just weak, uninteresting, sometimes annoying characters that take screen time away from what I actually care about. Do you really see anyone going to bat for how awesome Isidro is? Anyone post edits about him or even talk about him at all? Farnese? Do people even care about her besides that scene? Sure, she had an interesting backstory, but now she's just there and looks after Casca, which I will get to later. Surbicol I'll at least give a pass because he's kinda cool. Shirke is important to the plot, but do I care at all when one of the best written characters is having screen time taken away him just to show me uncensored child ass? When you think fondly of Berserk and what you would say good about it, you think, oh, that time Guts killed 100 men, or Guts is such a great character, or Guts and Zod teaming up, that was so cool. You don't think about Isidro failing to fight the cursed wheels during Conviction Arc for an entire chapter. And to top it off, besides Shirke, the characters have no addition to the plot once they're actually in the party. Like, Isidro's entire purpose is out-of-place comic relief and help minimally in fights. But the worst part is, Miura did this right before the original Band of the Hawk. Almost all the characters in the Band of the Hawk from the Golden Age had an effect on Guts, which had an effect on the story. Yu Dao heavily influenced Guts and Casca's relationship. Pippin was the first one to actually get Guts to be social. The guy who wanted to own a clothing business or something, I forgot his name, but he had an impact on Guts' goals and ideals. Corcus constantly berated Guts for doing what he wanted, which wasn't important to Guts or the story, but it was to the reader, as it actually conveyed what Guts was doing wrong in other people's eyes, and mostly Griffith's. And I didn't need to look up any of that. I had to actually pull up readberserk.com and look for examples of the new party members, just to remember what they were even like in the story for. Miura made these characters that were interesting, and then joined the party and then didn't matter anymore, and took screen time away from Guts. So what should he have done instead? Luca. Luca was an interesting character that had a realistic, charming, and grounded personality that stayed in the story for the perfect amount of time and then left. Griffith is an amazing villain. Up until he just isn't. Griffith was a manipulative bitch who only cared about his dream. And he has charm. He's got that silly, lighthearted nature, and then he just gets really evil. He's got depth, like when you see him in the river clawing at his own skin in regret. His descent from nobility to the darkest pits of the kingdom are equally satisfying and sad, and his eventual portrayal of those that saved him makes sense. And then the eclipse happens and everything good about him disappears. He is now just an unfeeling, uninteresting robot who just tries to build his kingdom. He literally goes to Guts to tell him he doesn't care about anything. So Miura makes sure that there's no depth and there's nothing we should look for in his character anymore. There's no charm, there's no nuance. He just turns into a plot device for Guts, which I must say is a really great plot device, but it doesn't function, or I should say, isn't interesting without Guts. Speaking of being uninteresting without Guts, Casca. Think about Casca completely on her own, without Guts. Would you still like her as a character or care about her at all? She's just an annoying and unentertaining character. But before we go and talk about Casca as a character, I need to address the rape and sexual violence and borderline misogyny surrounding Casca. First off, there's absolutely zero need for Casca's tits to be out or almost raped in every single fight that she's in. It adds nothing, unlike other depictions of sexual violence in the series, like what happens with, you guessed it, Guts. It even makes what happens to her at the hands of Griffith less shocking, because it basically already almost happened before, except this time it's Griffith. And the whole argument of it happens in real life, so it's fine, is stupid. Because, yeah, the completely uncensored shot of a naked 13-year-old girl was necessary because there are, in fact, naked 13-year-old girls out there. It's a story that someone wrote. This isn't depicting real life. If you still aren't with me and still believe in that argument before, let's talk about bestiality. If you are to kill a pig and eat it, it's fine. It's not weird. Nobody cares. But if you fuck the pig, that's weird. If you kill a character, nobody cares. If you rape a character, that's weird. At the end, it doesn't matter if it happens IRL. It is a piece of fiction written by someone choosing to include rape scenes with zero importance. Speaking of which, why does Casca need to specifically have a period that is so bad she falls off a cliff? It just feels kind of insulting, and I'm not even a woman. It could have been like an arrow or someone just pushed her off. Again, did he need to write that despite it being real? And when she reaches the bottom of said cliff, she starts talking about not asking to be born a woman. And combined with the period and what she's saying, it's sounding like character development regarding of her identity as a woman. But that goes literally nowhere. The only character development she gets is choosing which boy she likes. And yes, I did enjoy the romance between Guts and Casca, but that's only because I like Guts so much. So in reality, why should I care? I mean, Guts carries the entire plot of them two together, but I remain angry because there are so many Above all else, I criticize Casca so hard because she was a missed opportunity. For one, imagine if she had actual real charm. If Miura tried to make her as likable as Guts or Griffith, she would be awesome. She could have been a character readers could actually like even somewhere close to Guts, which of course makes the eclipse even more heart-wrenching as it's no longer Guts' girlfriend getting raped, it's Casca. And good lord, what happens after the eclipse. Speaking before about how rape doesn't mean anything, well, this one actually does. It makes Griffith a hateable villain, and it helps readers to connect with Guts and feel some of the anger that he feels. But I wish it really never happened, because remember when I said that Griffith's character fell off hard after the eclipse? At least Griffith or Femto has something. Casca going brain dead is my ultimate gripe with Berserk, because it had so much potential to turn Casca into an actually interesting character, and not the epitome of a plot device. Imagine instead Casca doesn't go brain dead. Imagine also she and Guts are rightfully pissed at Griffith, and same deal, except this time we have Casca. Casca and Guts over time begin to change. Guts hates more and more and starts to give in to the Beast of Darkness, while Casca begins to change for the better. She never forgives the bastard, but why go all this way just for revenge? The theme of revenge not being worth it is already prevalent in Berserk. It would work just fine, except it would be, at least to me, more interesting. The conversation between Casca, who was the victim, against Guts about chasing Griffith would be a very interesting conflict that we didn't get to see. Casca going into her Elaine state would have been fine, had it been resolved in a way that doesn't completely betray the themes of the story. The theme being to struggle. Guts is constantly shown as a reason to keep going, to keep struggling until you reach your goal. And for Casca's mind to become sane again, not thanks to the struggles of her own, but to fairy magic, just seems like such a missed opportunity, especially when it's to convey something that isn't completely physical, something mental that readers could relate more to. And by more relatable, I mean more relatable than slaying inhuman foes with a physically impossible to wield sword. But I think for all this to happen, first, have the most interesting plot point of her be something other than deciding which boy she liked. I don't hate Berserk. I don't even not like it. I think it's great. But I think it's only great because Guts is so great. And I think it could have been my favorite thing all time, hands down, if every character was as good as Guts was.